Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me today because, wow, do we have a truly fascinating biological mystery to unpack. We are looking at the incredibly elusive, surprisingly adorable, and deeply mysterious pygmy sperm whale. Now, these creatures are mostly pelagic, which just means they live way out in the deep ocean and rarely ever interact with humans. But recently, they've been leaving us some pretty heartbreaking clues washing up on our shores. Okay, let's dive into this, because this is a staggering and frankly alarming statistic. More than half of all adult pygmy sperm whales that end up stranded on beaches are found to be suffering from severe cardiomyopathy. That is essentially a failing, degraded heart. So you have to ask yourself, why on earth is a wild, deep-sea mammal suffering from a chronic heart condition that we normally associate with human lifestyle factors or genetics? It's an absolute tragedy every single time one of these beautiful creatures washes ashore. But to actually solve this, we have to treat every stranding not just as a loss, but as a scientific detective story. To figure out what is literally breaking the hearts of these whales, researchers had to look deep, deep into their cells, examining their diets, their environments, and the hidden chemical battles happening inside their bodies. To get to the bottom of it, we're going to trace this mystery from the stranded whales right into the lab, check out some intense forensic methods, map out the mercury-selenium connection, identify the biomarkers, and finally, look at the warnings this holds for the entire food chain. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the stranded whale mystery, focusing on diet and disease. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what is happening inside the whale. Over on the right, you've got your healthy, perfectly normal heart tissue structure. But on the left, we're looking at hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, or HCM. Notice how completely thickened, scarred, and damaged that tissue is? This heart was working incredibly hard, but it was losing the battle. The massive question for researchers was simply, what environmental trigger is causing this profound physical damage? The investigation actually led straight to the prime suspects, which happens to be their super restrictive diet. Pygmy sperm whales survive almost entirely on cephalopods, basically deep water squid. Now, this squid diet is wildly high in polyunsaturated fatty acids, which naturally generate a massive amount of dangerous free radicals in the body as they break down. Add to that the fact that these whales hunt way up at the top of the food chain, a high trophic level, meaning they're ingesting massive concentrated doses of heavy metals like mercury. Honestly, it's a perfect recipe for extreme oxidative stress. Which brings us to Section 2, forensic marine biology methods and getting inside the lab. This wasn't just some standard run-of-the-mill autopsy. This 2010 dissertation research used meticulous, hardcore forensic marine biology. First, they used incredibly strict, standardized protocols to collect the tissue. Then comes my absolute favorite part, cryogenic homogenization. They literally took the whale's liver and heart samples, flash froze them using liquid nitrogen, and pulverized them into a fine powder. This extreme cold is absolutely crucial because it preserves the delicate, volatile proteins and trace elements so they don't degrade before they can even be studied. From there, they used a cutting-edge method called speciated isotope dilution. Okay, I know that sounds like a total mouthful, but let's break it down. Using liquid chromatography and mass spectrometry, scientists can take that pulverized whale powder, separate out all the molecules by size and mass, and pinpoint the exact types of selenium and mercury hiding inside. They aren't just looking at total metals here. They're literally profiling the specific proteins the whale's body is frantically producing to fight off these toxins. Let's look closer at that in Section 3, profiling proteins and metals, what I like to call the cellular battlefield. So remember those polyunsaturated fats from the squid diet? When they break down, they spawn free radicals. You can see here how a normal cell gets completely bombarded by these unstable molecules. They act literally like tiny microscopic wrecking balls, just bouncing around and destroying the cell's components. We call this oxidative stress. Left unchecked over time, this leads to severe cell death and tissue damage, which is exactly what we saw in those thickened heart walls earlier. But nature is smart, and the body does have a defense mechanism. Take a look at this heroic, slightly cute illustration of antioxidant kicking out the free radicals. In the whale's body, the vital element selenium acts just like this. Selenium is an essential nutrient that steps in to build specific proteins designed to protect cells from oxidative stress and, crucially, to bind with and safely detoxify heavy metals like mercury. That brings us to Section 4, the mercury-selenium connection and a very dangerous tipping point.
So the study's discussion points to a massive twist. The researchers found this dangerous tipping point, especially in older male whales. As they age, mercury biomagnifies. That means it builds up over a lifetime of eating all that mercury-laden squid, and it does so aggressively enough that it completely alters how selenium functions. The mercury levels just skyrocket, forcing all the available selenium to bind with the mercury just to keep the whale from being instantly poisoned.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is we get to see the precise balance of a healthy system. This data represents whales with no pathological findings, meaning healthy hearts. Notice how the 3 peaks of selenium-containing proteins are relatively balanced? Each takes up roughly a third of the distribution. This is exactly what an uncompromised, perfectly functioning cellular defense looks like. Let's move to the next chart and see how this builds when things go wrong. Contrast that baseline with the data from a diseased whale. In this chart showing whales suffering from cardiomyopathy, look closely at peak 3, the metallothioneins, or MTs. It spikes dramatically to 43%, while peak 1 shrinks away. The whale's body is desperately altering its protein synthesis, basically churning out these specific low molecular weight proteins in a frantic, failing attempt to deal with the heavy metal toxicity and heart damage.
Moving on to Section 5, Biomarkers of Heart Disease, the Resolution.
And a major takeaway from the 2010 study is right here. The issue isn't that the whales are entirely depleted of selenium, not at all. It's that the expression of these selenium proteins radically changes. By identifying this massive spike in metallothioneins, researchers discovered a powerful potential biomarker. I mean, think about it. Diagnosing heart disease in a wild deep-sea whale using an EKG or ultrasound is practically impossible, right? But now, scientists can look at these specific protein shifts in tissue samples to identify early heart disease.
So the crucial point is this: the whole mystery is solved through a perfect storm of factors. It is the deadly combination of a highly oxidative squid diet, massive lifetime mercury accumulation, and the resulting altered bioavailability of selenium. The whale's cellular defense basically gets hijacked to fight the mercury, leaving the heart completely unprotected and vulnerable to the wrecking balls of oxidative stress.
Let's wrap things up with Section 6, Warnings for the Food Chain and exactly why this matters to us. Trace the path of mercury, represented here, because it doesn't start in the squid. It starts with us. Human industrial pollution, factories and runoff releasing mercury straight into the ocean. It becomes toxic methylmercury, which is absorbed by krill, eaten by fish, and then concentrated heavily into top predators like the pygmy sperm whale. Essentially, they are inheriting our toxic legacy. And here is the truly powerful connection. Humans and pygmy sperm whales share similar ocean resources. We eat from the very same food chain. In fact, the mercury levels found in these whales are well over the US EPA action limits for edible fish. This makes these adorable, elusive mammals crucial sentinel species. Their failing hearts aren't just an isolated tragedy, they're an early warning system for the health of our oceans, and ultimately, for our own health. So I want to leave you with this thought to ponder. We've seen the forensic evidence. We know the molecular mechanisms. If this hidden, silent bioaccumulation of heavy metals is powerful enough to literally break a deep-sea whale's heart, what does it mean for our own seafood diets? Thank you so much for exploring this incredible research with me today on The Explainer. Keep learning, keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you next time.